Our next presentation is from OneOme and Pat McIntyre, CEO. OneOme is a company at the forefront of personalized medicine. Co-developed with the Mayo Clinic, OneOme's innovative RightMed solution is revolutionizing the way doctors and pharmacists prescribe medicine, using pharmacogenetics to ensure patients get the right drug at the right dose based on their unique genetic markup. Their flagship product, RightMed Comprehensive Test, analyzes a patient's DNA to assess how they may respond to more than 300 medications across a wide spectrum of therapeutic areas, from psychiatry and oncology to cardiology and chronic pain. With insights from 27 key genes, this test provides personalized guidance to healthcare providers, helping them reduce trial and error in prescribing, lower adverse drug reactions, and improve patient outcomes. Under Pat's leadership, OneOme is making this powerful tool accessible to healthcare systems, providers, and patients worldwide, and a great example of how science and technology come together to deliver a truly personalized care. So please join me in welcoming Pat McIntyre.
Hi, well, just a full disclosure, I'm not Pat. My name is James Kelley, and I'm the Chief Medical Officer of OneOme. So I'll be joining you today for the presentation. I'm very pleased to be here at CAGLA, and I want to just applaud everyone here in the activities that you do. As a native of the Gulf South myself, and I was a physician at MD Anderson Cancer Center, and I'm a survivor and ostomy patient. So as a patient physician who's been dealing with cancer for years in this area, everything you do here in Louisiana beyond is greatly appreciated. But beyond that, let's actually talk about OneOme and what we can hope to do with the investor community. So let's start with a little audience participation since it's early in a Saturday morning and probably some people were on Bourbon Street last night. Let's try to wake up a little bit. And just show of hands if you're comfortable, how many people have either you or a loved one or a friend had a prescription drug taken in the last 1 to 3 years? How many people, either yourself or someone you know or close to, has taken a drug that didn't work for them? How many people have had either yourself or a loved one take a drug that had a side effect? And then final question, how many people in here would want something better for you or your loved ones, where you could actually have information in advance using precision genomics to know if that drug is going to be more effective and more safe for you? Well, then everyone in here should want to invest in OneOme, because that's what we do. So OneOme, we were founded by the Mayo Clinic back in 2013, spun off as an independent entity, and actually commercialized our product in 2017, 2018. So we've been on the market and in business for quite a while. We have a College of American Pathologist accredited laboratory in Minneapolis, have the same CLIA licenses that we just heard in our previous presentation, and currently serve over 4,200 providers who are ordering our test every year. Our main goal is to improve medication safety and improve clinical outcomes. Our test, basically, if you think there's differences genetically between people. Some people have blue eyes, some people are tall, some people can digest milk, and some people it makes them sick. Individuals are the same with the way they process medications. Your enzymes in your liver that break down the drugs can be different from one person to another. You may break down a drug faster than what was described in the clinical trial, meaning that you don't get a therapeutic level in your blood to actually have an active effect, so the drug may not work for you, and therefore you might need to take twice a dose or find a different drug altogether. You may be someone whose liver enzymes don't work as effectively as the majority of people that were in the clinical trial, which means the drugs won't break down that rapidly as expected, will build up to toxic levels, and you have side effects. So being able to have a genomic profile that predicts how your liver enzymes are going to deal with medications can give physicians a better idea in advance to eliminate trial and ordering and prevent a wide range of side effects. When you do that, it actually has a large impact on our healthcare cost. And we've shown that with multiple studies conducted at OneOme, where there's an average of $2,000 saved per person per year that undergoes our test and has actions taken based upon it. Again, if you think about it, you took a drug that didn't work. What's going to happen next? You're going to go back to the doctor for another visit that takes time away from that physician, that they could be working with other people, and it takes your day off work, as well as you have to get a new medication, added cost. Let's say you have a side effect. Maybe you have to go to the emergency room or a hospital stay, or God forbid, in some cases, which have been this severe, you actually die from it. That can add up to a tremendous amount of cost for the healthcare system. And then finally, what's most important here to actually make this happen is the implementation science behind it. It's one thing to throw a little test, take a swab out of your mouth, but you actually have to have the programs and tools that educate both patients and providers how to use this information to more effectively manage the medications. And at OneOme, we have a suite of health technology products, from information technology, portals, online resources, education programs, marketing tools that go out to help manage all of these needs. When we look for I know there's many physicians and scientists in the room, so let's throw a little data out there for you. 99% of patients will have some sort of genetic variant that will influence the way drugs are metabolized. So as you saw earlier, how many people in this room raised their hands? The data backs this up. Studies that we've done with both the Mayo Clinic and Baylor College of Medicine, as well as validation studies at Vanderbilt and other organizations, have shown that almost everyone is going to be impacted by pharmacogenomics, or PGX, which is the study of how your genes impact drug metabolism. The evidence is so clear that the Food and Drug Administration has actually put information on drug labels and information for over 100 drugs, saying that physicians, when they order a drug, should be considering these gene-to-drug interactions. So the clinical science is pretty solid. Of those drugs, where we know there's PGX information available, 63% of Americans will be prescribed one of those drugs within the next 3 years. So this is an issue with a very large market that will impact many people. And if we want to, again, extrapolate to look at the impact on the healthcare society, over $30 billion per year is what we spend on adverse drug costs. So if we can reduce just some of that, there's huge savings to the healthcare system to reduce that waste. So now, talking more to the investors, why is PGX exciting, and why is it now, and why should you write us a check? When we look at this, there's great stakeholder readiness. We see both clinicians are now becoming aware of this technology. There's a lot of learning here because of the proven clinical utility, that it's a ripe phase for adoption. We see expanding reimbursement. We do have our CMS approval. We can go through a PLA, a proprietary lab assay approval code. The CMS has signed us off at $742 for a test. So we consistently get reimbursed for that for all Medicaid people, Medicare patients, which many Medicare patients are on medications and therefore benefit from this test. We also see a favorable regulatory trends. Just actually Friday, we had Congressman Eric Swalwell, a Democrat of California, and Dan Crenshaw, a Republican from Texas, proposed a bipartisan legislation to the U.S. Congress that would provide $80 million in funding to do PGX education and push more coverage from the VA and other organizations. So there's a large swell of information that's coming out. We're actually working with Senator Amy Klobuchar right now to push it both in Minnesota and have Senate sponsorship to push these laws forward. So at OneOme, we have a suite of solutions. Our sort of marquee product is called the RightMed Comprehensive Test. This takes all the information that we have and curates it into one panel across therapeutic areas. So we can cover oncology, cardiology, pain management, mental health, many different things in one-stop shop. Very useful for primary care or for large health systems that want to have all that information embedded into their EHR to use for prescribing for a multitude of different drugs. We've also heard that some clinicians really want to focus on just their specialty, because if you're an oncologist, you may not want to have to look at a need to adjust a cardiology-based medication. So we have specific panels for just oncology, which we're the market leader and the first one to come out with that, as well as a RightMed Mental Health, which focuses on drugs that work with anxiety and depression. We also have a product that we sell to insurers, payers, employers called RightMed for Populations. In this product, again, since there's such a large financial benefit and cost of care savings that's possible, we will stratify, or we'll look at an entire member base, like all 100 members of a Blue Cross plan, for example, all 1 million members of a Blue Cross plan. And we will select those members using proprietary algorithms who would most benefit from this test, looking for people based on their age, what medications they're on, what diagnoses they've had, to predict who is going to have most benefit from this. We will then have a marketing approach that reaches out to those people to educate and encourage them testing. We will speak to their physician or have a third-party provider group order the test for them. We ship the kits to their home. They do the buccal swab or the mouth-to-cheek swab, mail it back to us. We do the lab testing, generate the report, and then we can have a genetic counselor or pharmacist have a telehealth visit to counsel them, and then give information back to the physician about what drugs we recommend should be changed. And we've done that now with multiple different organizations and payers to great success. To go along with this, all the health technology tools that we have, we can do EHR integrations for health systems. We have the ability to have we do have a portal, so physicians can log in, or providers, pharmacists, where they can order and access their results. They actually can go in here and search by patient-specific results, add in the medications to see how the gene-drug interactions, drug-drug interactions all work, and how the recommendations would fall for the prescribing to be more precise based off their genomics. In addition to that, they can actually go in to look at the primary literature, the clinical guidelines, so it's not just taking our word for it. They can verify for themselves what's the most accurate thing to do. We're in the process now of we have for several customers created custom reports. So for example, biotech companies. Let's say you're developing a drug that is metabolized by these liver enzymes. And let's just say you have your clinical trial with 1,000 patients. You get really good results in 200, the other 800 are so-so. Well, it may be that 200 really worked because of the way the drug was metabolized. So if you have this PGX profile, you can start subsetting and segregating your trial population and perhaps help with your approval and FDA documents because you can show, oh, this is the subpopulation that you should really be looking at. So now we're designing tests with specific genes for those biotech companies, and I'm doing quite well and quite helpful for them in their regulatory advancement. And again, we have everything based off guidelines from both the FDA and from national and international professional organizations such as CPIC and the Dutch Pharmacogenomic Working Group. Since we're at CAGLA, let's talk a bit about oncology, since that's our fastest growing area. What we're seeing is that we can help people optimize treatment. I will give a plug. There's another session this morning. Gada Elnashar, who's head of our medical affairs, will be joining Dr. Matrana here from Ochsner, Karen Merritt, who is a patient advocate, to talk about the DPYD story. So I'm not going to go into that much detail, but it's quite powerful because if you can have the potential actually to drop a patient's white blood cell count so low that it's fatal to them, simply because they cannot metabolize this particular chemotherapy called 5-fluorouracil. So beyond optimizing the treatment for specific chemotherapies that we test for, as well as all the supportive drugs, everything from Prilosec to some pain management meds can be on our report. We are seeing really high growth in reimbursement. This area has had a 250% growth in orders over the past 2 years, and we're actually seeing average reimbursement at $450. That includes the CMS reimbursement that I was talking about earlier, as well as what we're seeing from commercial payers, and then sometimes you get denied, so that's in those numbers as well. It's becoming standard of care at many organizations as they are seeing legal liability for not ordering this test in some instances to lead health systems to just want to blanket all new colon cancer patients or all patients who are going to get 5-fluorouracil, for example, going back to that story, to be tested. And in doing so, we're now seeing large numbers and orders coming from there. And we're seeing industry endorsement and endorsement from regulatory agencies. The FDA itself hosted a conference back in January and has now issued 2 safety announcements saying that this testing needs to be done prior to ordering some medications. So it's very clear evidence from the field and from regulators that this technology is a benefit and should be used. To highlight a success story, one right here from New Orleans, I'd just like to recognize Dr. Matrana and everything he's done. I mean, I think he's preaching to the choir to this audience about the great things he's done for cancer care in Louisiana, and this is yet another example. He and many others, which I see Dr. Oliver in the back, if you want to wave your hand. She's a great reference. If you want to validate anything I'm saying, please talk to her. She doesn't work for us, she works for Ochsner, but she's the lead pharmacist that's over all of these programs. And what they've done is they have mandated that all of their patients that receive, again, that drug that's on another session this morning, 5-fluorouracil, be tested with the OneOme test to ensure that that drug will be safe for those patients. In doing so, in the past year, they have reduced over 100 hospital days of patients being kept in the hospital for a side effect to this medication. And in fact, this is a side effect that can lead to death. Now, as a patient who is laid in a hospital bed, staring up at the fluorescent lights with tubes connected to me, I can tell you the ability to have one more day at home with your family, playing with your kids, out in your garden, has just immeasurable value to you as a person, not even what it costs to the health system. So the ability that we are able to contribute to that is the reason I'm at OneOme, and one thing that I'm very proud of working with the people at Ochsner who've made this happen. So a huge congratulations to Catherine and her team for all that they've done here. In addition to that, I have to think that this is just one hospital in one town that's had this level of success. When this rolls out across the country to bigger and bigger audiences, this will have a tremendous impact on improving patient care and cancer care in America. We have growth opportunities beyond just oncology, though. The American Heart Association has put out statements indicating that before you have prescriptions for Plavix, for example, you should have this test because it can impact the way that Plavix actually works, and therefore you don't get the right anticoagulation or ability to stop your clotting. There's actually been large lawsuits to the manufacturers about this, and since Plavix is prescribed to 4 million people every year, 13 million prescriptions written annually, there's actually a huge market to support this testing as the adoption becomes more common. We also see mental health as a large activity in our Right Mental Health product. There's a publicly traded company, so we can get their data, Myriad Genetics. They have a comparable product that they are pulling in $170 million per year in revenue off that. So again, the market size is quite large, and there's many opportunities for to get an ROI on any kind of investment here. What mental health does is many of the SSRIs or drugs that are used for depression and anxiety are also metabolized by these liver enzymes. Therefore, we can help make sure that you get on the right drug at the right time, and therefore you don't have to go through that trial and order of taking a drug, waiting 6 weeks to see if it works while you're depressed and not feeling great, and then trying another drug. Just get it right the first time so you get people back to work and get them more effective and more efficient and having a good life. We also have growth opportunities in the population management segment, selling our tools and our kits and our health technology to healthcare payers and large employers, which we have multiple contracts there. We have done 2 studies to actually prove out the cost of care savings with the Blue Plan and with the national payer. With both of those, we're at $2,900 in savings per member per year, or $1,800. And we've shown that of the members that we've tested with our stratification, over 70% of patients actually had an actionable result. They had a gene-drug interaction that needed something done. So we're showing that our test has clinical utility as well as saving money for the healthcare system. As we show these information, commercial payers, large employers are more interested in both helping their people and saving money. So it's a large sales vertical that we have as well. Finally, I just want to sort of wrap up as a summary about OneOme, that we have a very solid science built from the Mayo Clinic. We have all the tools to make these programs happen. So we're much more than just a lab test. We have all the marketing and the IT support and the education to wrap around the entire pharmacogenomic ecosystem to make sure it's functioning. And we have all of the analytics and tools to actually prove that that benefit occurred. So if we want to go back to, I guess, a little bit more audience participation and seeing if this is something that would ever interest you, please contact us about an investment potential, as well as if you're a physician and want to see how this actually works for educational testing. We do have some no cost or no charge tests that you can go pick up at our booth and take the test for yourself. And then we'll have an education session to show you how your genes are working for your drugs, and then hopefully you'll adopt it with more of your patients. So with that, I'd like to, again, thank you for your attention and see if there are any questions.